And I had like weed and a grinder and a pipe in my backpack. And I left it at the gas station by accident, like just being too stoned probably. And the gas station people found the iPad, knew it was a student's backpack, took it to the school. The school had my backpack and called me to the office. And they're like, is this your backpack?
This is back to your story.
I also, by the way, this is so cool. I have that Fear and Loathing on Tatooine.
Oh, really?
I have that. Did you get that from Seattle?
I did.
Yeah, from Pike's Place Market.
Yes! Let's fucking go!
Fucking love that shit, dude. I saw that. I was like floored. I was like, wow, nobody has that. Like,
yeah,
it's
dude.
People think it's so cool. It's so
I
dope.
fucking love it, bro. That's so crazy that you point out. I went up there for back in like 2019 for a big hair event because I also work in the hairstyling world.
No way.
Yeah.
I want to go blonde.
No, there we go. Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I'm actually blonde right now. Tyler and I actually work for a professional hairstyling tool company called Ergo Styling Tools. I'm the
I know that. Yeah, for
chief
sure.
marketing
My
officer.
ex was a cosmetologist, so I was like spoiled for years with a free haircut.
Oh,
and
okay,
free
okay.
hair- and now I'm like really picky about who does my.
Yes.
I fly to New York to get my hair done.
Shut the fuck up.
Straight up. There's like, because I had someone do it in Kentucky once, and there was a fucking chunk missing in the back of my head that I didn't even know about because it's like back there.
Yeah.
And then somebody was taking photos of me like with my horses, and straight up it was like I had to have them edit hair in with it. And I was like so pissed. And then like, so I just was like, you know what? I'm not fucking with that anymore. I'm like, I'm going to go to New York and get my hair done.
So how often do you go?
Basically, like I kind of like I just like I'm doing the grow out thing. So whenever it makes sense to, or I'm like, okay, I'm already going to New York. Let me make an appointment. Boom, boom. He's ready for me. It's awesome.
I love it. I love it. You got good hair though, man.
It's growing. It's getting there. I'm like, okay, I got my luscious. I'm like ready for some highlights or something.
There we
you know?
go. How long you want to grow it?
Honestly, I've always wanted like some real like Jesus fucking shake my shit out.
Yes. Just get it out of the water all fucking luscious and shit. Yeah.
And this is like the first time I'm really growing out my facial hair since like 2020, since the pandemic.
Okay.
And I still don't grow facial hair on my sides here. Like at all.
It doesn't attack. I don't mean to laugh.
There's probably literally like you might be able to see one black hair coming out now that
dude.
like just got there. And I was like, okay, cool. So before it always just I would not shave for like a week. And people would be like, hey, there's some dirt on your chin or something.
No.
I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing. I gotta get this out of here. So this is the first time I've grown it out for like long enough where people have been like, hey, your facial hair looks pretty good. I was like, okay, well, let's go. Let's see what happens with it.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, grow that shit out, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Lane, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tyler and I were talking when you were in the bathroom. I was like, dude, he's such a cool guy. Like you and Maddie, like, so like anytime that you meet someone new, right? I don't want to say it's like awkward or uncomfortable, but it's just
there's like a tense moment.
Yeah,
you're trying to like, what's going to happen?
100%. And so, but like you came in, like, I'm sorry. I was like, I just got out of the shower and all that shit. But like I came in and you're just like instantly just like a nice person.
Oh, I do.
And like broke the ice very easily. And Maddie did like the same exact thing where it was just
she is so cool. She's how I found you guys. So
dude, she's awesome, man. It's like these type of people like Maddie or yourself. It's like, I've known you for fucking ever, man.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Exactly.
It feels like it.
Yeah. That's a testament to your personality,
Well,
your
cheers,
character.
man.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So, you know, when you look back at your own story, where does it?
What kind of coffee is this?
Okay. We'll talk about the
Because
coffee
it tastes
first.
like it tastes like a certain kind of instant coffee that I drink.
For Sigmatic.
Okay, no, it's not that.
Yeah, it's mushroom
like
coffee.
Cafe de or some like it's like green and red. Now I can't think of the brand.
Will you pull this up? For Sigmatic.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome, dude. It's like a nootropic based coffee.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. So it's like really powerful. I actually learned about it on Rogan.
No doubt.
Definitely.
No doubt.
It's I don't know, man. I really enjoyed it. And I brought it out the first time when we had Rick Thorne on last week.
Yeah.
And he absolutely loved it. And my wife actually got it for when we went camping. Yeah, here it is.
You got the instant?
Yeah.
I kind of love instant coffee. Like I low-key love instant
No, because it
coffee.
works perfectly. But I normally get ground. If you scroll, just click on it real quick. I guess, is that it? Yeah. So, so it's instant mushroom coffee with lion's mane.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. And so they have all different ones. So it's lion's mane and chaga, all different types that really, stimulate and tickle the brain.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, but they
Awesome.
have ground coffee too. And I don't know if they have espresso, but
that's fine.
either way, it's fucking good, dude.
I use my
delicious.
Nespresso machine. I'm trying to figure out more stuff about the coffee world. I think I want to get a French press. I was telling you guys before, like I just kind of figured out how that works. And I
Yes.
was like, okay. because it's very daunting. There's like so many ways. Like
Yes.
you can make coffee a million ways
Yeah.
now. Have you seen those like the old school espresso machines that it's actually, you know how like espresso is because you're pressing the coffee
Yeah.
through something, right? So like old school espresso machines, you could probably look this up. It's a hand pull espresso machine. You pull the espresso through yourself with your fucking strength of your
What?
goddamn arm, dude.
Wait.
Dude, it's insane. When that right. There's one that one, yeah, the La Pavoni. Yeah, that's it.
Holy shit, dude. That looks like
Yeah,
the one right
there's a-
next to it looks like a freaking
There's
meth lab.
So that's even older. Those are really crazy. You have to like start a flame for that one, and it actually causes that little gold canister to rise, and that pushes the coffee. That's crazy. But the La Pavoni one, look up those La Pavonis, because that's like a cheap La Pavoni, dude. Like
That's a cheap?
dude.
That's $2,400 fucking dollars,
Dude,
dog.
the one I saw was like fucking dude, like fucking thousands of dollars, dude.
Yeah. That's incredible, dude. Yeah. That for people just listening, you definitely got to pull up La Pavoni. It's like a hand
pull espresso machine. Yeah.
So wait, so is the coffee already in the thing?
So it's like you know how with a regular espresso machine you kind of like put your coffee in and you like tamp it down and like, you know, whatever, all that stuff, and then you put it in the crank or whatever. You still kind of like do that, but instead of at the end of that pressing a button and then the machine pushing it through for you, you're like doing that. You're like pulling the fucking coffee through the fucking thing into your So it's very like involved, and I'm very into that. I'm very into like tactile things like the lighter and like all that. I just like, it's really about the sound for me. The same as the ST DuPont lighter I was telling you about. Like when it makes that like ping, just like this makes its own sound. But I'll send you a video actually when I get home of the ping of the ST DuPont, because it is so, when you get it right, it's so I love tactile stuff like that. But I'm also like, if I put that in my fucking house, like it's like cleaning that, dealing with that. Like at the end of the day, I still am just gonna like use my Nespresso machine.
That's exactly what it comes down to,
you
right?
know, I'm gonna put the pot in. I'm like, that's
boom.
Yeah, it's like, how much time am I willing to give up for?
That's exactly. Are you willing to, you know, waste 30 minutes of your life every morning? You know what? If you're 5 o'clock in the morning, it's like it's all relative, right? It's like what makes you happy.
Yeah.
You know, for me, this is simple. It's easy. Fucking bought it on Amazon. We just needed a big one because the ones that we were using before, it was
like a one-person
It was like a
fucking
one-person
thing,
thing. I even want to get a bigger one because like I don't even think there's enough coffee in there now if we want another round.
Right,
You know,
right,
so I would
right.
like one that's like fucking this tall. You know, it's like
those are like, and then there's like the vintage like pour over ones, which is one coffee that are like, have you seen those? They're like a shelf system, dude. It's like as tall as that shelf over there, and it's like got different like I want to say like a vial, like almost from like a chemistry set.
Yeah.
You know,
I've
like
seen 'em.
beakers and stuff, and then the coffee slowly makes its way down to like a cup at the bottom. I'm like, if I was mega rich and I could really like do whatever I wanted with my time, that is how I would spend I would take 30 minutes. I would like,
You're right,
you know,
yeah.
But yeah, like
the process.
right. I'm still building. I'm still trying to like get mega rich. I'm trying to go from rich to mega rich. So I
Yes.
need to like,
Yes,
I gotta
yes.
like, it's like, okay, I gotta value the time over this like experience.
100%. Yeah.
basically.
Well, I think in life, man, it's about valuing your time and your this experience, right? All we know is it's for now. It's one shot, right?
Yeah. As far as I know,
As far as I know, that's and anyone that says anything different is a fucking liar, right? I don't mean to disparage, right?
Or guessing.
Well, guessing, right? I don't mean that's what I mean. They're not a liar. Some of them are liars.
Some of them like are like trying to lie to you.
Try to lie to you, and then some of them are guessing, right?
Yep.
And they truly believe it. And shit, man, I hope it's true. Some of it, right? Like, and it would be very fucking strange, right? You have this whole experience, right? And then nothing.
And then nothing. Yeah. That is what kind of makes me lean towards reincarnation. But I feel like the reason that we like, if reincarnation is real, the reason that we as humans don't get to like have active knowledge of it, that we like, okay, I know I'm going to get reincarnated. Because if you knew you were going to get reincarnated, you're like, I got another shot at this.
Yeah.
So like, even if reincarnation's real, it's like the universe wouldn't want you to know you're going to get reincarnated, because otherwise you might not try and be the best version of yourself.
100%.
You know?
Is reincarnation though the same as nothing, right? Because you're not going to know.
Right, exactly. Because you don't know, right? It's only like on this like higher plane of existence or whatever, which, you know, like, you can get into if you're, you know, on a lot of mushrooms or
100%.
You know.
And then it's like, do you level up, right?
Yeah.
Like, is someone like Jeff Bezos or Joe Rogan, like, is this like their 50th reincarnation?
Right, and is that why they're so much more successful? You know?
And then like the shitty people like Jeffrey Dahmer, let's just throw it out, right? He's like, You
he
know,
fucked up in a past life, and he's like, yeah.
And then and then that's it. Oh man, that's terrible though.
Yeah.
Right, that's fucking weird.
crazy,
right?
right?
Yeah. I don't know. Does it scare you?
A little bit, because what if I get reincarnated as a fucking bug? Like, what if I, but also that could be like the existence of a bug could be very like ethereal and very like
100%.
nice and simple and like, oh, I don't have to worry about taxes if I'm a bug.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like property tax doesn't exist for me, so.
I would love to be a dolphin.
Oh yeah.
I fucking love dolphins, right? I know they're a little rapey and shit, right? But
They
like,
are. No,
they're
see,
fucking,
like, why is it? That's immediately what I think of. Is like, yo, dolphins are a little rapey.
they're a little
like,
rapey, dude. But so are humans.
So are humans.
So are humans, right? I
right.
think what is it about
Very intelligent
beings
species.
that like to rape, right? Right?
How do dolphins know? They're like, yeah, you.
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
you're
like, the fucking one, dude.
Yeah, like they're like, wait, I don't want to be the one to get picked. Like,
Well, that is why the female dolphin, right, when she is mating, right, she will sleep with as many of the male dolphins as possible. Like she'll whore herself out, right?
Really?
Because just the thought of those male dolphins thinking that the baby is theirs will limit the chance of the mom getting raped.
Oh, whoa. They're like, oh, somebody else already got her there?
Well,
Like,
it's just like if she sleeps with 100 dudes, 100 of them don't know whose kid that is, right? Because they don't have like testing or anything like that, right?
Real.
So if they think that there's any chance that it's their kid, they're not going to rape the female.
whoa.
Right,
That is some
smart.
like twisted shit.
Right.
Nature is scary.
It's fucking weird, dude.
Yo, nature
It's
is
weird. It's weird. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but yeah, if I was gonna come back as something other than a human, I think it'd be a dolphin, though.
Yeah.
Because they're just so majestic.
They're
and
living
beautiful.
there. They again, hyper intelligent creatures,
Yes.
right? Like probably could figure out physics.
Oh, 100%.
Just don't got hands.
Yeah, no.
But as a result, don't give a fuck.
Absolutely.
Right? Swimming the fucking length of the oceans
Yes.
and shit like that. Yeah.
And they have
dope.
complex speech but
They
they
can
live.
call across the fucking ocean.
That is the craziest thing, like how whales can literally
Whales,
speak.
sharks, dolphins, all that shit. Like you could be in the North Atlantic and be like, "Hey, how's Chile doing down there?" You know,
100%.
the eating's good. Cool, I'm gonna head down.
It's like their own fucking cell phone, right? It's like their own phone.
That's why the ocean scares me though on
Yeah.
a low key level, because I'm like, here's the deal. That's not our domain.
Yes, no.
That's theirs, right?
That is theirs.
So people who are like, oh yeah, I feel called to the ocean. I'm like,
It's like, bitch, shut up.
check the caller
Yeah.
ID, okay? Because I don't think you're meant to be there, man.
No.
You'd have gills and fins or like some shit. Like, because there are mammals that are meant to be in the ocean, right?
Yes.
Dolphins, whales type shit. But guess
100%.
what? They're built for that shit. You know what I mean?
They are. They live in a 4-dimensional world, dude.
Yeah.
It's like their their version of hamburgers are just floating all around them.
Yes,
it's like oh, I want this, right? But actually, the best dolphin, like if I was gonna pick one, it would be the orca.
Oh, the
But,
killer whale. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're the king, right?
Yeah.
Or the queen, right? Like
I saw a crazy video one time of a pack of orcas hunting a shark. And like it was like a drone video, right? So that was like you could just, and they were pretty close to the surface. So it was a drone video, and the drone's following them, and it's like 6 orcas, and this shark is like you've never seen a
Can you
shark
pull this up, Tyler?
scared before, dude. Where this shark is swimming for its life, and these orcas are like playing with it, like they could take it at any time, and they're playing with it, and it's like, yo, you know how scary those creatures are? If a great white shark is scared of that, I'm scared of that. Might have been a
100%.
hammerhead, but like
whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
Right here?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Oh my
See,
god.
yeah, that's it.
Dude.
This shit's crazy. Yeah.
All right, so we're watching a video of
Yes, it's
shit.
above. There's a shark, and they're just kind of like,
And so is that the shark in the middle? Where the hell's the shark?
I think those are orcas. The evasive tactics the sharks use, but where is somewhere in there? There's like a really good. There's the shark. Yeah, it's that grayer one.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah, and it's trying to like dive deeper when it comes at it and whatnot. But yeah, there's some footage where they're like straight up like they could take it and they just not.
Oh yeah, there's a whole yeah,
There's a whole pack of them, and they're just
And so they're just circling, trying
Tight
to evade the
circling.
killer whales.
yep.
Wow, there's nothing they can fucking do, dude.
Well, it's just like here's the deal: sharks aren't pack animals, right?
No.
So there's like 6 orcas and 1 shark, like
Yeah.
and that's why dolphins can kill sharks too, because so,
Yeah, because they're
so they're just like fucking with it.
damn, that's insane.
It's crazy, dude.
That's insane. And this is like some of the first time we've ever seen footage like this. You
Yeah,
know?
because they do act different when you put the camera underwater.
Yes.
They seem to like know a little bit. They're like,
something's there, dude.
Yeah, something's there that's not normally fucking there. That's not using the like all fish use like some type of sonar, right, or something like that. You know, and so this thing isn't like they can tell. Like,
I don't know if they all use it, but I know some of them do, right?
Yeah.
Like the whales and stuff like that. Have you ever seen that video? It's I don't know if it's a whale, a dolphin, whatever it is, but the lady drops her cell phone.
And it brings it back.
Brings it back
I
up.
I did see that.
What the fuck?
That's crazy.
Like, what the fuck?
Hey, you dropped this.
Yeah, and there's like videos out there where like a shark's trying to like attack a woman, and the freaking the orca or the dolphins
Do you
will
think
come
it's a
and protect
mammal
her.
thing? That they're like, oh, you're also a mammal, or
Yeah,
it's like,
well,
you're helpless, and I
I just think that they're good creatures, and like you look at Shamu, SeaWorld, like that is the only time that orcas have ever attacked
well, it's because
humans.
we're fucking with them.
Dude,
Like,
their dorsal fins are fucking knocked over.
Yeah.
Like that, as a kid, I was like, what the fuck? Like going to a zoo, I was like, this just seems weird.
I as a kid, I was like really oblivious to it, but I did start to figure out. I was just like,
but then Blackfin came out, and that Blackfin, whatever the fuck it was, right? And that changed the game, especially for SeaWorld. I mean, SeaWorld was never the
SeaWorld's
same.
never the same, and it just always like was crazy, especially like the SeaWorld thing was always crazy to me, as maybe even more than the zoo thing, because it's like, they're used to having the whole ocean, and you're gonna put this thing even in a 3 million gallon tank is a drop compared to the ocean. Like, what are we doing here?
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, we're putting them in jail, and you're definitely correct. I mean, and I'm cool with like the zoos that are like they're like rehabilitation and things like that.
Pandas got to be in a zoo because they'll all die if we don't save
Absolutely,
them.
right?
And there is something to that where I've always kind of been of the mindset. I'm like, okay, wait. Are pandas going extinct? And I don't know the answer, right? Like somebody way smarter than me knows the answer to this. But are pandas going extinct because of like humans, or because pandas are fucking dumb? Because if you've ever seen like pandas, like they're like falling down the hill, and it's just like, this is the worst bear species. Like, from a survivability standpoint, this is the weakest bear species. You know what I mean? A grizzly bear would decimate a family of pandas. You know what I mean?
It's
and like,
so true.
Right.
It's so true, right? So it's like, yeah, I mean, some animals just die, but you hear about how they're trying to bring back like the woolly mammoth.
Oh, they're gonna, dude.
They're going to do it.
They're gonna.
That's gonna be fucking strange,
dude. I honestly, if they're like, oh yeah, you got to go up to like the tundra of Canada to go see
I'm
going.
Yeah.
I'm fucking going. I'm gonna go see the Aurora Borealis, and I'm gonna go see a fucking woolly mammoth. And I'm gonna be like,
bro, we're gonna have like some like. I don't think Jurassic Park type shit, right? Because I don't think they can bring back dinosaurs, but they can bring back.
Far, yeah.
It's too far, right? But they can bring back some of these ones that, like, dude, if I saw a woolly mammoth, bro, I might as well be seeing a fucking dinosaur, right? Because
basically,
like,
right, they bring back the saber-toothed tiger.
Oh, dude.
But there's also an aspect of like, okay, if you do bring back these woolly mammoths, or especially like a predator species, like a saber-toothed tiger, you introduce a predator species into an area. Like this happened with the gray wolves in Montana, right? They reintroduced the gray wolves in Montana, but they brought Canadian wolves who have way less competition or way more competition, and therefore they're bigger and they're stronger and they're way more like lethal. So like they brought down these gray wolves from Canada, and like they just started fucking up livestock. Like the old wolves didn't, but we of course had hunted them to like a damn near extinction and shit. So yeah, if you bring back the saber-toothed tiger, like you kind of have to keep it in a zoo.
Yeah, you do.
Because
with things like that.
That's the reason that the other tigers were able to advance.
100%.
So like you're gonna put those in competition with each other.
Saber-toothed tiger versus an African lion. Who wins?
Saber-toothed tiger versus African lion, male or female lion?
Both female.
2 female lions? 2 female lions. I'm taking them all day.
No. Do you think the saber-toothed tiger is more badass than
like one female saber-tooth, one female lion? Oh shit, dude. How big was the saber-tooth tiger?
Look that up. How big is a saber-tooth tiger? Fuck, that's a good point.
Because like,
they're like fucking 30 feet tall. We're like,
right,
okay,
they might have been like, if they were 500 pounds more, I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, lions are very used to hunting, and except for the males, right? Very used to hunting in these packs.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's a valid point. So, they weren't.
750
pounds.
pounds.
Oh shit! Look at how big it is compared to like the normal tiger.
Yeah.
How big is a lion?
How big is a female lion? Oh, shit. Especially the poundage. I want to know the poundage.
Dude.
Yeah, they're huge, dude. People do not. Look how much bigger it is than a tiger.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's so much. If seriously, go on Google, people.
These megafauna, it's people don't understand how much bigger like stuff was. Like people
Absolutely.
don't like an elephant is so massive, and a woolly mammoth is going to be so much more massive.
Yeah. Look up saber-tooth tiger versus a lion, or you can just look up a lion.
Yeah, I just want to know how big a female lion
Yeah,
is.
I do. What do you think? Oh, hold on, before you pull it up, how much do you think?
If a saber-tooth tiger was about 750 pounds, without looking, I'm going to say
Don't look.
650.
I'm gonna say 450.
Oh yeah, you're way more right. Yeah. Oh shit, 395 pounds.
Oh fuck, dude, saber-tooth
Saber-tooth.
win, dude, 100%.
That's 250 pounds is a lot of weight, dude.
Yeah,
that's why
bro.
we separate shit by weight classes.
100%,
Like, trust me.
100, and that's not just a little bit of weight.
Yeah, like when I used to.
That is like a
wrestle,
fucking
yeah.
baby versus Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, exactly. When I used to wrestle, dude, one time I missed weigh-ins at a high school wrestling thing, and I was over by 2 pounds. But the next weight class up was 10 pounds. But I was only 8 pounds off from the next guy up, and they destroyed me.
Yes.
Because that 8 pounds, like when you're really like you're talking about like, I know with wrestling, you're not really fighting for your life, but it feels like it.
Of course,
You're in
yeah.
any kind of combat situation. Like those 8 pounds make a difference.
Absolutely, dude. A huge difference, man.
Huge.
Dude, I look at guys that are, I'm like 165, right? I look at guys that are like 175, 180. Dude, they just seem so much bigger than me.
Yeah.
Like
I'm 160.
so much bigger
I'm trying to
than
get to 170. It's so hard to gain that 10 pounds.
That's kind of crazy. Dude, you're 170 or 160? Mm-hmm. I'm 165, dude.
Yeah, it's because you're tall, man.
Yeah.
It's like that's where it's like weight distribution comes down
it's
to
huge,
it, you know?
dude.
Because
It's
I'm like,
huge.
oh yeah, like okay, if we were sparring or whatever, like look how much longer your arms are. than
100%,
mine.
yeah.
you've
But look
got
how
this
much thicker your arms are.
Right,
than
right.
mine,
So
yeah.
it's like if I could get close, like
Yeah,
but
that's crazy,
it's
dude.
crazy.
Yeah, Tyler, because how much do you weigh? 170?
Like 175.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, dude. That's a big boy over there.
Yeah.
Like somebody called Frisch's. He got their new mascot over here.
Let's go, dude.
We got a light one. Go
Yeah,
ahead, man. Yeah,
perfect.
let's go.
All right, motherfucker.
I was just saying, I was like, we're talking about some shit. We gotta slow it, dude.
So where did you grow up? You said Kentucky?
Yeah, I grew up in Kentucky. Yeah, give it. Yeah, there you go. I grew up in Kentucky in a little town of like 10,000 people, and went to like a lot of different schools. Mostly went to like private school for most of my life, and then my sister had gone to boarding school, and so my 9th grade year, I went. I wanted to go to boarding school, but I couldn't go to her boarding school because it was all girls' school. And the other school that was next to her school in California was like too far away. My mom didn't want me to go that far, which I'm glad I didn't. So I ended up going to the school in North Carolina. But literally like 3 days before I left, like I packed my trunk, like Harry Potter style, had my trunk packed, like with all of my stuff to go to boarding school. We're going to drive down to North Carolina. I'm going to start going to this school. It's my fucking dream. I'm going to have independence before other kids. Like,
Yeah.
it's dope, right? 3 days before I leave, my mom tells us that she's been diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was just like,
Oh.
and I was like, I'm the youngest. I was a mama's boy, like 100%. And so it was very just like, I remember being at the table and my siblings were there because we were making a whole family trip down to this place, this school. And I remember just sitting there and being like, well, I want to start unpacking. Like, I'm not going, right?
Yeah.
Like, I thought that's where this conversation was leading. I thought she was about to say like, so you can't go, and I was going to be like, yeah, of course I can't go. Like, no problem. But she was like, well, we've already paid for it, so you have to go, but then, so that kind of like ruined that experience for me, unfortunately. And like, she did turn out okay. She has survived. She's like 15 years in remission. Like it's
awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, it definitely turned out okay. But when I was a boy, and she was really sick still for like that first like year, that whole year that I was gone at school, it was just like, oh, I shouldn't be here right now. Like, this could be the last year of my mom's life, and I'm like 2 states away, and this is fucked up. And then what really killed me, and like, if this hadn't been happening, I think I might have been able, because she was like, no, she wanted me to stay. She was like, it's fine. Like, you should live your life, like, very encouraging, even through what she was going through. But yeah, she, there was a set of brothers at that school as well. And their mom had breast cancer, and she passed away during the school year. And all I could think about was just like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, I've got to go home to Kentucky. So
What was the reasoning that you guys would go to boarding school?
So it was not like every time I tell people I went to boarding school, they're like, what did you do? Like, they're thinking of like military boarding school, but no, this is like top tier, expensive, like a really good education.
So like
experience.
did your parents go to boarding school? Oh, they wanted to give you guys an experience that.
Yeah, and we were going to like private school, but we weren't. It was like, and it actually goes back even farther. I should set it up because my grandfather grew up in the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma. Like the real, like, you know that picture from the Dust Bowl? You can probably pull that up because that shit's dramatic.
Yeah,
dude.
let me see.
Dude, when you see, it's like a picture of a family in the Dust Bowl that's like really famous from like the 1920s in Oklahoma, specifically in Oklahoma. And he grew up in that. He straight up grew up in the Dust Bowl. That one with that woman. With that woman there to the right.
Oh my God.
That's like how my grandfather grew up, straight up, like in the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma.
Why was that happening?
It was a drought. It was like one of the worst droughts ever.
Yeah.
And so they were having this crazy drought. So he grew up in the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma, gets drafted, goes to World War II, is in a Sherman tank, which had some of the lowest survivability rating of any units, right? Sherman tanks were getting blown out of the water by Tiger tanks like every day. It was like something like 4-1 or something. Like every 4 Shermans that they would destroy, we would destroy 1 German tank. It's like crazy.
It didn't even make, their ability to create tanks was.
Yo, have you driven a BMW?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you know,
Yes.
so he survives that, comes back. He was an engineer in the tank, comes back, goes to the University of Oklahoma on the GI Bill, gets his petroleum engineering degree, starts working on an oil rig, ends up working his way up to be the CEO of an oil supply company.
Holy
so they sold like the equipment, like the drilling equipment to Shell and stuff. And just was like, just became very important that everybody in our family had like the best educational opportunities. And like, that's what we as a family would like spend money on was education.
Smart.
Yeah.
So smart.
And so we all had, it was all just like good education. And then like to go to boarding school was like a privilege, you know?
Yes.
My sister was super smart. She got into a really good school. Like I got into a good school and like, it was just like, okay, great. Like we're going to get to go and have this amazing experience. And it was like a lot of trust too of like, we're sending you away and hoping you're going to behave with these like strangers and be kind of an early adult in a way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I came home and sophomore year, 10th grade, I for the first time ever, I went to a public school. I'd never been to a public school before in my life. And I was going to a public school again in a town of 10,000 people. So a tiny school still, but it was still bigger than any other school I'd been to. So I was exposed to like so many different kinds of people and everything.
Very
Good
informative.
Good point.
Thank you. Very informative years, man. That's so important.
So yeah, that was like, but yeah, that the thing with my mom was like the first thing that ever was like, sort of like, shattered my reality. That was the first, like, I maybe not shattered. That was the first crack in the glass.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
You know,
100%.
To be like, oh, wait, what the fuck is this life? And like, what's happening here? And like, what's gonna happen? And like the first time I ever stopped and was like, what am I doing? Because before that it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to boarding school. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna get my finance degree. I'm gonna go become a banker for fucking Chase Manhattan. Like that's what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was engineering or finance. Because like my grandfather was an engineer, so my uncle had become an engineer. He still works for Boeing. Like it was like that was the pathway, right? It was
that
one
scary?
of those. Yeah, it was scary to which part?
Well, it sounded like your life was already planned out at a young age.
Yeah. It wasn't scary until that first crack in the glass.
Okay.
Because it was like, I don't know, it's like being like we're talking about, it's like being an animal in the zoo before that. Like that's all like an animal that was bred in captivity. It was just like that's what I knew. That to me was like aspirational, which and by the way, it still is. Like if you want to go and become a banker for Chase Manhattan and that's your dream, like I'm not trying to diss on that or anything, right? Because that was once my dream. Of
course.
You know, that was like, yeah, I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna fucking wear a suit every day.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be my life. And for the first time when I got to public school and I got exposed to all these new types of people, that I was like, oh, maybe that's not what I want to do. Like, and that's when it started to just become a question of like, what do I want to do? How do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend it with? And really getting exposed to these like other, like to be totally honest, like socioeconomic classes of people made me, I think, much more well-rounded. I'm much happier that way. I'd definitely be like the snobbiest piece of shit in the room if I had like just followed the path. So I'm glad it happened, but it was scary, especially sophomore year, and like being like, it took me a minute, like probably the first semester, or I guess we did trimesters, whatever, but like the first like half of the school year to be like, oh, I'm just like these kids. I've just been told that I'm different than them. You know what I mean? All these differences that we like. So that was the first time I started to perceive that like differences aren't fucking real. That shit's made up, you know, and like. Picking up on that and being able to like do something about it was like I think really, really like a watershed moment in my life to be able to say like, oh no, life is what you make it. Life is what you choose, you know, and like realizing that I had been making choices up to that point without consciously and starting to make conscious choices.
Yeah.
And of course, like the first conscious choices I made were like terrible. Like I made a lot
of course, as they should be.
Right. Cause I was just like experimenting and doing new shit. So I started smoking a lot of pot, doing drugs and partying, and like ended up again going from this like, you know, and I was still extremely, but like a good student who was going to like a high level school where we were learning, I was learning like high level biology in 9th grade.
That's fucking
you know,
crazy,
where
dude.
most kids in public school are doing biology in like junior, senior year,
Yeah.
you know? So I was doing this like, and then to switch was like, oh, what's happening here? So I just didn't handle that well, to be honest, and ended up actually getting expelled from 2 high schools my senior year and did not graduate high school.
No fucking way,
I had to go
dude.
back and get my GED years later.
Isn't that crazy, right? Like, and to think, right? What you said a minute ago, right? If that crack in the glass wouldn't have happened, you'd be this snobby banker, right? Like financy, right?
Dude, I'd be like, look at you with your tattoos and shit. Like, I'd be fucked up.
I get that, right? And so it's really crazy when you look back at your own story and, you know, fucked up going through that moment with your mom, right? But that's a watershed moment in your life that allowed you to pivot and go down a different path.
Yeah, which actually ended up making me like more successful in the long run. I didn't know it at the time, but yeah, so I end up getting expelled from these 2 high schools.
Why?
Okay, the first high school I got expelled from in my hometown was because like from sophomore year to that senior year, like I just became known to the administration in that negative way of just like, you're one of those kids, you know?
Yeah.
So it was funny because I was still dressing preppy. Like I was still wearing like collared shirts. I started wearing jeans and t-shirts and stuff, but I'd never been like allowed to wear that to school before, you know? So I was still dressing like as a preppy kid, but then like hanging out with like the skaters and stoners and like, like realized like that was more my group and stuff. And that's when I really started hanging out, like just realizing like, oh, I can hang out with any group of people, and like realizing I could now I feel like I can hang out with anybody. I can still go hang out with like, I still do hang out with like the dudes from like Chase Manhattan and stuff, not that specific bank, but like those finance level guys, right? And then also I hang out with people who also don't have their high school diploma still, you know? So like it really opened me up in that way. But yeah, why did I get expelled? I got expelled from the first school for so this is a little off story. We got put in this pilot program my junior year for these iPads, and this is like 2012, so it's 2011 2012, so it's way before, you know, like technology in schools was what it kind of is today, where like they're, you know, so they were trying out this 1-to-1 program, and there were 2 science classes, and I was in the science class with iPads and there was another science class without, and they did the study across a bunch of schools, but in most of the classes, the students with iPads got a higher grade. So they ended up like doing a deal with Apple, and literally the next year, everybody had their own iPad.
Holy
we like
shit.
took home and everything, but it was assigned to a student. And I had my backpack, and there was a gas station across the street. And I turned 18 my first day of my senior year of high school. And excuse me.
It's all right.
I turned 18 the first day of my senior year of high school, so I could buy cigarettes. This is before it was 21 to buy tobacco.
Yeah, the good old days.
Right, so we would leave school, go across the street to the gas station, and like hang around the gas station and smoke cigarettes and stuff. And I had like weed and a grinder and a pipe in my backpack, and I left it at the gas station by accident, like just being too stoned probably. And the gas station people found the iPad, knew it was a student's backpack, took it to the school. The school had my backpack and called me to the office, and they're like, "Is this your backpack?" And they knew it was mine, and they knew the iPad was mine because they can check which student it's associated to. And then they were like, "Oh, well, we also found this in it," and pulled out the pipe and the grinder and the.
But it wasn't. You didn't get caught at school.
Right. Exactly. But the problem was I wasn't quite like, I wasn't quite wise enough to realize that I probably had some real plausible deniability for that to be like, oh yeah, I lost my backpack, but I don't, you know, all that was in it was my iPad.
But you were scared. You were nervous.
Yeah, I was scared. I was nervous. It's like we're in this windowless fucking office, and like, you know, all the administrators are there, and like hammer. And then they have me like fill out this like confession, which like, again, all the time now, I would literally tell my kid now,
Yes.
never do that.
100%.
Like they can't
Deny.
Yeah. Deny and call me, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And like demand to speak to me. And like, definitely can't wait to like tell my kid that, to be like, listen, I mean, if you get caught with an 8-ball of Coke at school, we're going to have to talk.
Well, that's a fucking problem.
Right.
Right?
That's
Yeah,
a problem.
yeah.
But if you get caught with like a pipe and a grinder at school, like say nothing and say, I'm not talking to you without my dad, and like call me, I will fucking come. Right.
Yes.
So yes. So I fessed up to it, which was foolish. And,
damn.
Yeah. And got expelled for that. Yeah.
Fuck, that sucks, man.
So then I switched and that was the point. Like I had really like, gone from this like golden child to like the black sheep and
What'd the family say?
yeah, like my mom kicked me out. I was 18 and she said, you can't live with me anymore. And I was like, also like, to be honest, I was doing pills also. Like I was snorting a lot of Adderall.
There we go.
Snorting a lot of Adderall. And, and then going out and drinking, and I'd wrecked the family car one night, which I had like taken, of course, without permission. I was so good at sneaking out. It was crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. I
what was your method?
So to get the car, right, for one, the first time I took the car, my brother and I got it for Christmas. He's going to laugh at this story. Shout out, Lucas. But first time I took the car, how did I think of this? But it didn't have plates on it. So I was like, I can't just drive off with no plates, right? So I took a screwdriver. I took the license plates off my mom's car. And I put them on that car, just so like if the cop was passing behind, if you pull me over, he's gonna find out.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
But as long as I drove safe and didn't get pulled over, then I was pretty much good.
Yes.
And it was this old Saturn sedan.
Saturn.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was great. And we had this interesting driveway that was like this, and then there was like a curve point, and then the house was here, right? And so my mom would park in here, but we parked the extra car here. And so I would actually, this is back in the day before when you turned on a car, like every fucking light and everything turned on, right? So I could turn the key halfway, but have the lights set to off so nothing would come on, put the car into neutral, and actually roll it out into the street in front of my neighbor's house. It would sound like my neighbor's car was starting.
Nice, dude. Yeah. There we go. How many times did you do that until you got caught?
Oh, yeah. Well, until I wrecked it. Yeah.
How did that even happen?
So by that time, my mom did get it registered. It had its own plates. We even got the pink breast cancer plates at my request. I was like, I got to get these. So then I was still doing the same thing, still like pushing the car into the street, starting it. And on the night that the wreck happened, this was crazy. This was like a real like wake up moment for me, and this was the point that I started to like change my life. And I'm very lucky I survived this. But I pushed the car out into the street, and it won't start. So now I have a totally turned off, like blacked out, like no lights on car that won't start. And I was like, that should have been my sign to be like, this isn't the night, you know. But like my stubborn teenage ass was like, nah, I'm going, right?
Yes.
Like there was this was in University of Kentucky, was in the national championship. So University of Kentucky in Lexington, which is the town adjacent to mine, was going nuts. I was going to college parties in high school, like type shit. Like I was a bad kid. And so I get it started. I go pick my friend up. We go to Lexington. We're partying. We're fucking it up. We're fucking it up on State Street. We're coming back. He's picked up a chick. I'm blitz. Like I can't even see straight. I give the keys to him. And statute of limitations passed on this, so it doesn't matter anymore. But I checked before I came. 10 years, and now it's 23, and this was 2012.
Go.
So I gave him the keys, and he drove us home, and I passed out on the way back. And I passed out completely. I was like out cold. And when I woke up, we were spinning. And everybody in the car was screaming, so I started screaming, and I'm like, oh, and then like, boom, impact, and I blacked out again from the impact of the car. And we had gone off of, he had decided when we got back to our town fine, like we got back fine, and then he was like, oh, I want to go on a dip, which is like where you go and drive in the country and like smoke blunts and like listen to music loud and drive fast or whatever. So he's driving fast and took this corner too fast, and we spun 360 backwards into a tree in a ditch. And I was in the front passenger seat. My friend that was driving, and we had another friend who was behind me. And the way that we hit this side of the car, the rear driver's side, completely collapsed in. And if this guy who was sitting behind me had been sitting behind my friend who was driving, literally would have been crushed and killed to death. He only had a bloody nose. Yeah, it was crazy. We couldn't open the doors. We had to crawl out of the windows, walk like 2 miles back on a country road back to get back to town. And yeah, that was the point. That walk home, that like several mile walk home was the first time I was just like, what am I doing? Like, whoa, like this has just gotten completely out of hand.
Yeah.
And that was the point I went to rehab, went to rehab, pretty much stopped doing pills, and I was just smoking pot. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, this is not what's harming me. It's like, it's the pills and the alcohol, really, right?
Yes.
So I'm just smoking pot, and but then I get caught with the pot at school, and they'd already known that I'd been using pills and stuff, but they just never caught me.
Yeah.
So they were just looking for whatever reason and that was their reason, right?
Fuck.
And so I get kicked out, and I go live with my childhood best friend that I'd met in like 4th grade, and I'm living with him and his family, and they took me in, and they were really awesome. And I started going to his high school, and I enrolled for the last semester of senior year. And they were like, all right, this is your schedule. It was like random class. They were like, if based on your transcript, if you do these classes and you just complete this semester, you graduate and you'll get a high school diploma. And I was like, okay, bet, right? But this school was in a really, like my school was in a rural area, but this school was in a really rural area. So it still had this old rule where 18-year-olds could sign themselves out, because kids used to need to sign themselves out to go help on the family farm at different times of year.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell me that there was a limited number of times you could do that. So you could only do it 6 times. And they didn't give me any warning or anything. So we're like a month from graduating, dude. And they call me to the office the day after I signed myself out for the 7th time, and they were like, "You're expelled."
What?
Just like that. Like straight up, like casual as fuck. She like didn't even look up from her desk. And I was just like, "Excuse me? What?" And I didn't realize, again, this is like, not as wise at the time, but like me now would be like, oh no, we're gonna appeal to the school board. We're gonna go to the super. Like we're gonna like. I should have fought it, right? I probably could have gotten them to be like, all right, as long as
Don't do it again.
Don't do it anymore.
You're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't, and so I just kind of accepted it, and then I was just like living with my friends and had no license, had no car, and we were living way deep in the country, so I couldn't even go get like a job. Like I was just like stuck. So I eventually moved to Lexington. Started living with my friend. My lesbian best friend, dude, was sharing a 400 square foot studio apartment with 2 beds on either, almost like a dorm room, dude.
Yes.
And and then I got a job at this pizza place in Lexington that nobody should ever eat at. It's really bad. Yeah. They had like an in with the health department, so we straight up had bugs in that bitch, and like they would know when the health department was coming. They would get like a call, and they like the owner would come in and be like, clean everything, da 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 da, and like the health department would come and do their inspection, and I was like, I didn't want to lose my job, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was just like, all right, well, I gotta get paid, you know what I mean? Like,
holy shit! What? So they had an in with the health department that allowed them to just bypass.
Found out later from a buddy of mine. This black police detective who really wanted me to he was like, go get your GED. We can get you into you can still turn your life around type guy, He was like trying to influence me. And he saw me walking to work one day, pulled over and was like, for one, scared the shit out of me, turned on his lights as he's like, I'm walking, and he's like, and I'm like, fuck, and then it's him, So he's just like, and he was
just fucking with you.
Yeah, he's like, I met this guy in high school, and he's just looking out for me. And he pulls me over. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm going to work. He's like, where? And I tell him where. And he's like, oh, you should quit that job. And I was like, why? He's like, well, we're don't tell anybody, but we're investigating them for money laundering. Yeah. yeah. So straight up, I was like, okay. And then I kind of put it together again, just didn't have the full wisdom of a man, still just a boy who was just happened to be over the age of 18. But I never actually got a paycheck from that place.
Wait, how long the fuck did you work there?
4 months. Yeah, 4 months. But every time I would get paid, every 2 weeks, I would get an envelope with money in it and a pay stub, but no actual paycheck. Never got a tax return from that place, nothing. And so if my check was, and this was straight up real numbers, I remember one of my checks was $146.15, and there was $146 in there and a dime and a fucking nickel. So there was no paycheck or whatever. It was very illegitimate. And that's when I realized I was like, oh, this is not good,
So you got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, so I just never went. I just got my last check one day, and they would always ask you're gonna be here tomorrow after they would pay us, because people would just leave,
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I'll be here tomorrow.
Nope.
No, I was
Peace,
not
bitch.
there tomorrow. I was not there tomorrow. So I bounced and started working at this 24-hour diner on UK's campus. That's like really famous. It's called Tally Ho. And
Tally Ho.
Yeah, it's fucking dope. 24-hour diner. I start working third shift, and I moved out of Maria's place, and my dad helped me meet this older gay couple that he was renting a room from, and just kind of knew I needed to like be in a little bit of a better situation, and so he gave up that room that he was renting from them so that I could rent it, and I started living with this gay couple. And they were awesome, really like transformed my life, like made me grow up, made me work hard, made me get my license, like all that. He was like, if you don't get your license, you can't live here. And I was just like, oh, well, gotta get my license. But yeah, and they live so far away. They live so far away. I used to have to like, this is like my moment for like, you used to have to walk uphill.
Yeah.
You used to have to walk 6 miles to work.
Get the fuck out of here,
It'd take me
dude.
3 hours. I would walk 6 miles to work.
Why didn't you ride a bike?
Because I was so broke, I couldn't afford a bike. I was so broke, I couldn't pay attention. Okay, like I was broke, dude. Like I could, and I was still like smoking pot. So like pot costs, like I was.
Yeah,
spending
it's more important.
I probably could have bought a bike if I didn't buy pot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd walk to work through all seasons. Like I'd freeze my ass off in the winter, and I'd be sweating by the time I got to work in the summer. It sucked.
How long were you doing this for?
I did that for about 2 years, or about a year.
Wait, an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back?
3 hours there, 3 hours back.
What the fuck, dude?
If I was lucky,
There was no bus?
there was, but there was no bus stops on the route until I got like halfway there. So I could have taken the bus halfway there, but at that point I was just like, fuck it, I'm almost there. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, an hour and a half more to go.
I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, I was dumb.
The things you
like,
do
I
when
was
you're a kid. Yeah,
stupid,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Smart me would have been like, yeah, let's not buy pot for literally a week and go buy any bicycle at a yard sale.
Yes,
you know, like
your local Walmart would have been like $60.
Yeah, especially back then, you know.
Yeah,
even nothing.
for sure.
So yeah, I'm working there. I'm working third shift, but really awesomely, like again, this gay couple really took me under their wing, and under another wing was the owner of the restaurant, who was just like, wait, you don't have a high school diploma? You don't like what? But he realized I was like really smart, and he was just like, what are you doing here? Like,
yeah.
And so he started like mentoring me kind of. And like, I remember he would always, after my shifts, I would go into the office in the back of the restaurant, and he would ask me how my shift went and ask me like what was working and what wasn't. And I was just like, wow, this guy like really gives a shit about me. Like this dude cares about me in like a genuine way. And I remember this one thing that he said to me one time. He goes, because I was like pissed off about something, you know, and I was just like, well, then I'm, you know, saying some bullshit. And he was like, you know, Lane, one day you're going to grow way beyond this place and you have no idea. But all my job is right now is to make sure that when you get there, you're still a hard worker. And I was like, damn, you, like, it was like, wow, you really think like that highly of me that like I thought I was going to work there forever. I'm not even like at the time I thought I was like, well, this is my job now. Like if I'm lucky, I'll get to be the general manager of this place one day, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's how the whole, that actually leads to how the porn thing began, which is really.
Wait, you go from that to porn?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. Here's where
the fuck?
Here's where it gets crazy, dude.
Yeah, light it up.
Yeah. Let me get my shit to work.
It's kind of crazy, man. You have these like watershed moments throughout your life, and
Dude,
then it's just like the next thing.
I'm so glad I was just wise enough later to recognize them.
Yes.
You know?
Well, that's why, you know, I say this all the time, but it's like in your life, most people will meet 3 to 5 people. Let's just say 3 people, right? That can help take them to the next level, but most people won't even see one.
Yep.
Right? Most people won't even see one.
Yep.
So it's like, all right, break it down.
Right. So I'm working third shift, right? I'm working the hardest shift at this restaurant because it's a college restaurant. So all the college drunk kids are coming in.
Tyler?
And also, this is before Tinder. I don't even think Tinder existed yet. Like, I don't think so. I was on Grindr.
Yeah.
But I'm on Grindr at like 3 or 4 in the morning in Lexington, Kentucky in 2012.
Okay.
Slim pickings, right?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Not great, you know? But eventually I find one dude who's, you know, not like some weirdo or whatever, right? He's like a 22-year-old or something. I was like 18 or 19. I think I was 19 at the time. And he was the only person who was ever up at that hour that was like normal and like cute. And like, I was like, okay, cool. So I'm trying to get rides home from work. by the way,
Yes.
because I'm walking the 6 miles. Right? So I'm trying to get rides home from work, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give you a ride." And he comes and picks me up from work one day, and picks me up from work, and we hang out, and it's really cool. And then another time he picks me up, and I actually go back to his place, and we go back to his place, and me and him and one of these roommates of his, this girl. And I don't drink. I really had stopped drinking by that point, but you know, I just, ever since, like, I cut it off. I just never been a heavy drinker since, really. And, but we split a bottle. We just literally passed around a bottle of strawberry Burnett's vodka and a thing of lemonade. So it was like strawberry lemonade. So we're like shooting that, and like somehow drank like a whole fifth, like the three of us, you know, which like, and then I'm too drunk to like do anything. Like nothing's down there is working at that point.
Yeah.
So we pass out in his bed or whatever, and we're just cuddling. My bad. And we're just cuddling in his bed, and then thank you. And I wake up in the morning, and these other two girls that I hadn't even met, with the one girl that I had met, come running into the room, topless, hot chicks, like jumping in a circle together about how much money they'd made the night before. And I'm like, my brain's like a little foggy, but my brain still works pretty quick. So I just started putting it together. I was like, okay, 3 beautiful young women, comfortable being naked in front of a stranger, made money last night. So I just asked him, I was like, so are you guys strippers, you know?
Yeah.
And they were talking about like the dudes that they got the money off of or whatever. And they were like, well, kind of. And I was like, well, what do you mean kind of? And they were like, we're virtual strippers. They were cam girls. This is in like before OnlyFans, right? So they were cam. This is how people did at home porn then, was Chatterbait and My Free Cams and shit like that. So yeah, they were cam girls, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, and started meeting them and hear about like what they were doing and how much money they were making. And I'm making $7.25 an hour plus tip.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm making nothing.
You're making shit.
I'm making shit.
Yes.
Okay. And I was just like, you're making how much? Doing what?
How much could they make back then?
Oh, those girls back in the days, like before OnlyFans, and like if you were really good at it and you had good clients, like you had some good whales, those girls were making like $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a month in college. They're going to EDC every year. They're going to Bonner. That's what they would spend their money on. Was these crazy trips, right?
As they should. As they fucking should, dude. At that age, bro, come on. Live your life.
So yeah, so I was like, well, I could do that, but I'm so broke. I don't have a computer. The old gay dudes that I was living with, they didn't have internet at their house. Like they didn't need internet, you know.
What are you gonna do this at like a Starbucks?
Right. Where am I gonna do this? So I just started talking to the guy that I had met, and I was like, yo, you know, what's your name? I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah.
What's your name? Like, we should do this. You know, he wasn't doing it. He was just living with them, and like his parents were paying for his college. So he didn't need that, right? And I was like, we should do this. But he couldn't go on the trips with them because he couldn't afford it. Yeah. So that was what got him to do it. Was, you know, but he had a computer, he had a place we could do it at, and everything like that. And so yeah, February of 2014, I did my first webcam show.
Would you do it together?
Yeah. We did it together, but we'd never, again, like that first night or whatever, we had like made out a little, but we'd never done anything.
Damn.
So every time we did something for the first time, like oral or whatever, was on webcam.
No way.
So it was super valuable. And like that chemistry and that tension of like a first time thing. And I wasn't like the porn star I am today. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm comfortable. I'll go in and fuck anybody. You know? So it was like not difficult, but it was like real, you know, it was like really like raw and real. And so, yeah. And people were like really into us or whatever. And when I really realized it could go somewhere was like in the first week or 2 weeks of doing it. For some reason, we just jumped to like the top of the recommended and just ended up like, I don't know, we were just had something like some viral ability or something and crashed the website.
What the fuck?
Because we had so many people go into our room. Yeah. And I'd never experienced that before. And I was like, okay, there's something here. Like maybe I could, like a light bulb, like, you know, like, oh, I could do something here. And so then all through most of 2014, I'm doing cam shows, but with webcamming and you know, nowadays it's very up and down unless you're really steady with it. Yeah. And so like 1 month and like, so I'm finally making good money. I'm making thousands a month. 1 month we made 10,000, right? I'm 18 years old. And of course, like I made 10,000, I spent 10,000. Of course, right? So I have nothing to show for that period. I could probably be like way farther along if I had just...
Talk a little bit closer, Mike.
Sorry. Yeah. If I had just put that money in the bank, you
Isn't
know,
that kind of crazy,
like,
right?
Like if I was like, I was doing fine, being broke, right? Like making that little money at Tally Ho, like it wasn't great, but I also like I had no bills, right? I had no car payment, therefore I had no insurance. Like I had no bills besides this. Like I think I was paying them $200 for that room a month, right? So
That's
like
nothing.
My Tally Ho job covered that and my weed budget. That's basically all I had to pay for, you know? And like, cause I didn't, but then like once I got the money, I started doing like buying, shopping and like dumb shit, like shoes I don't have, like clothes I don't have anymore. Like didn't even buy something like I could have bought a Rolex with it or something that would have like, I would still have today. But yeah, so I wanted something that was going to be a little bit more steady. And then me and the guy that I had started webcamming with, like, started to grow apart because I liked hanging out with him and I liked like hooking up with him to whatever degree, but like I didn't want to be like in a relationship with him.
Yes.
Mostly because he like was a real party animal and like really drank a lot. And I was of course still trying to avoid that because I was like, I can't be around. I can't indulge in that, you know? And
that's so smart of you.
Yeah. I was just like, that's going to lead me back to what led me to that car wreck. So I can't do that. So I had to like distance myself from him. By that point I had my own computer.
Yeah.
I convinced the guys I was living with to get internet. I was like, I'll pay for the internet. Like it's fine, you know? And so we get internet and I'm able to do it from home and like do it on my own. And he just kind of fell off and like was really drinking a lot and really went down that path. And I was just like, I'm not far enough along in my own journey to help you with yours, but I also can't follow you down it, you know? And it was a really hard choice, but it was just like, it was a point when I was like, you know, I really am going to have to put myself first here and like make a choice. And so I made that choice and of course he resented me for it and was like, I gave you your start. And I was like, yeah. And we made a ton of money together, like, you know, and we could still be doing this successfully to this day,
100%.
probably if he had not done that, you know? And, so by that time, I'm doing it by myself. It's later in 2014. And what was my favorite gay porn studio at the time hit me up, which was like, that's like, I feel like for a girl porn star, that's like if Pornhub hits you up, you know, that's like so like validating in a way, you know? So but then I was dating somebody else. I was dating like a really, really like a good guy. And this was the point in my life where I was like, oh, I could really make a choice here where he was going to college. I was like, I could go to get my GED. I could go to college still. I could probably like put away this webcam thing and most people would never know, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't the same as doing porn or OnlyFans where it's a little bit more, it didn't feel quite as permanent. There are a lot of people who did that who are not doing that anymore that nobody remembers, you know? And so, but I just chose, for one reason or another, I can't exactly remember why, but he and I broke up, and he was the only reason I hadn't gone on to do like pro porn because he didn't want me to. He and I broke up, and so I called the studio and I was like, "When do you want me to come?"
No way.
Yeah. And November of 2014, I filmed my first professional porn scene.
Okay, because I want to ask more about that, but at that time, did your family know? Had you already come out? Like, how did that all happen? Because
no, they did not. They definitely did not know that I was doing the webcam thing. The guys that I was living with knew. And at the time, again, like my mom had kicked me out. So I'm like, kind of like, we're not really getting along. You know what I mean? So it's not like she's like my confidant at that point or anything. So I wasn't exactly like, in super good contact with her or like comfortable enough with her, I guess, to like be telling her something like that.
Yes.
So I actually talked to the older guys I was living with, and I asked them before I went out there for the first time. I said, "What do you think I should do?" Because like that was the point. It was going to become more permanent.
Yes.
You know. So I asked him. I said, "You know, what do you think I should do?" And I'm going to listen to whatever that guy told me at the time because he's the reason I have my driver's license. He's the reason I was like in a good position. And he knew about the webcam thing, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't care." You know what I mean? And he was like, he sat there and he thought about it. He was just quiet for a minute, and we were smoking a bowl. He hits the bowl and he hands it to me. He's like, "I think you should do it." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I think you could be really good at it. You've got the looks for it. You've got the vibe for it. You know, like the personality for it. And I think you could be really successful if you really wanted to do it." And he was like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, I think I want to go to California and film a porn scene, you know? And yeah. And so I did. And I went and I filmed my first one and it went really well. And that one went viral too when they released it. And that was just like even partially because I already had a little bit of an audience built up, you know, from doing the chatterbait. So then I went back in December and then it was just monthly until I moved to San Diego in like 2015, probably late 2015 or something like that.
What is the first experience like? Right?
Oh my God, it was a fucking nightmare, dude.
Really?
It went horrible, dude.
Wait a minute, really?
It went terrible.
I thought it went viral.
It did. No, that's what was crazy to me. And that's where I realized I was like, oh, this is all like perception and how people are perceiving this, not necessarily how it actually went. My first scene took 2 12-hour days to film.
Why?
I could not come. I could not get hard. I was so nervous. I was so scared. And and by that point I'd taken like a couple Viagra to try and get hard.
And it didn't work?
It wasn't working, dude. I was like, I later found out I didn't need to be taking Viagra, but one of the different ED medications. And so it was like
Cialis?
Actually sildenafil
Okay.
or whatever, which is supposed to be like related to Viagra, but
Yeah,
something
yeah.
about it just interacts with me better. So I'm like trying to do this job. I'm like really trying and it's not working. And I like, yeah. So it was 2 12-hour days. And I remember being like when I flew home and then the second scene, because they always want you to do 2 scenes when you come out, or at least back then they did. And so the second scene went way better. It took a full 8-hour day, you know,
Okay.
which is still pretty long for a porn scene, but
You got to prove yourself though.
yeah. And then I was like, I expected they were never going to call me back, that they were going to be like, yeah, this guy can't do it.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. And I was amazed when that first scene came out. I was like, it looks like I'm hard the whole time. Like, you know, it's all editing and shit like that.
No
Yeah,
way.
because I would be able to get hard for like 2 minutes.
Okay.
And they would film that 2 minutes of fucking or whatever, and then we'd cut, you know, and then I would like, come on, like you fucker.
You must have been so embarrassed.
Dude, it was the worst. It was so embarrassing. I was
I don't mean to laugh, but
I laugh now. Like
Yeah.
it was mortifying. It was like, oh my God, why can't, and like emasculating. It was
Yes.
like, why can't I do this?
Yes.
You know? And this is where I hate to say that like bottoms or like girls have it easier because they have their own struggles, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Which are just, it's not better or worse or harder or easier. It's just different, you know? But like low key, like
It
you
is.
don't have to get hard.
It is.
If you're a hole. So
yes.
you just got to be a hole, you know?
Of course.
And even if you're not getting wet, there's lube, you know?
Of course,
So,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So-
But they know this, right? Like the company, right, knows that like this is your first time,
yeah,
man.
yep. The producer
Right?
was totally, he was like, you're fine.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
good.
because they know they saw something in you,
Yeah.
right, and if they did, they're like, okay, well, you know what, maybe it didn't go as well, right, but the
They
next
fully
day,
expect.
they expect
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. Well, they expect it to go horribly wrong
Yeah.
almost, you know, and they're like prepared for that and like ready to like talk you through it and be like, no, this happens to everybody. And the other performer who was very experienced was like, no, this happens to everybody. So like everybody's telling me it's fine.
Yes.
But on the inside, I'm like, they're just saying that to be nice.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
I
you just
can't-
get in your head, dude.
No, I was
No.
so in my head.
Dude,
and
it's like the first time fucking and you bust really quick. You know,
Oh
it's
my
like, come
God.
on, like, you know, it's like that. It's like everyone, you know, for the most part, goes through it, right?
yes, right. You know, and you kind of, it was like, I'm glad I did because
Yeah.
later when I would have scene struggles, which still happened like 5 years in, I would still like have a day where it was just like
Off
not
day.
happening, you know?
Yeah.
And, but then I was able to handle it so much better, you know?
And then even for you, maybe working with a first time performer, right? Well, I guess
Oh,
you would
yeah.
there'd be more of a bottom,
Eventually,
right?
Yeah, but eventually, dude, they still have trouble. They still have trouble, like with its cleaning out or whatever it is, and then they're like very embarrassed about that. They're nervous. They're like, "Oh, this never happens." I'm like, "Of course, you know, I know. It's
Yeah.
fine."
Yeah.
So
Get your shit
eventually-
together, bitch. No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Eventually, they had actually put me with all the first timers because I had learned so much from that experience that they were like, I was really good at handling them and making them comfortable and like.
I can so see it, right?
Yeah.
But like I said in the beginning of the freaking show, right? It's like you have this thing about you that like it's like I've known you for a long time,
Yeah,
right?
thank you.
And it's like, and Maddie has that too, you know,
Like,
which is
oh my God, when we met yesterday, literally I come to her house.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you know, for a girl that's different, you know, bringing like some strange dude to your house, even though it's like, she could put me on blast online if like I like was a horrible dude.
Yes.
Right. But still in that moment, right. I'm physically there.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, it was like, but yeah, I went inside, we met, and yeah, it was like we'd known each other for years.
Did you guys work
dude.
together?
Yeah, yeah. It
Nice.
was like we'd known each other for years, and yeah. So then I'm doing the scenes. It's going really well. I'm becoming more and more popular, And this is the point where like something else had happened, where like kind of the pendulum swung the other direction. Where like when I was working at the pizza place and the diner and everything like that, like even doing the webcam thing, my ego was like negative. Like I was like honestly like really didn't think much of myself. Like, oh, look where I once was when I was going to this nice school and I was supposed to go on to this college and do that, and now I'm working at a diner. And like, even though I was proud to work at that diner and like, I honestly loved it and I'm still proud of that place to this day. And I still really thank the owner and the manager for really taking me under their wing in that place. But I still felt bad about myself. It was still like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to be somebody else. But then the opposite thing started happening when I started doing well in the scenes and started really getting access to like a bigger audience and like becoming very popular, which is that my ego started to get like out of control.
Oh shit.
Which like fortunately now I have under control, but like I really had like a bad ego. Like I would be like, other performers didn't like me.
Really?
Yes, dude. I was an asshole, dude. I was a major asshole. People did not like me. People wanted to work with me because their scene would do really good. You know, it was like
they just wanted to use you.
Yeah, well, it was very much like, I'm trying to think of an actor or an actress who's like known for this, where it's like, yeah, you want to be in a movie with such and such, but it's gonna be a shitty experience.
Yes.
And that's what it was with me. And like, it took, I can't remember. Oh no, actually, I know what it was. It was a really hard mushroom trip that was like, it woke me up, dude. It woke me up.
That shit, dude. It does not fucking matter who you
Ego
are.
death.
It will fucking push everything to the front and make you stare at it like a fucking gun at your head.
Yep. Take 4 grams of mushrooms. You're not gonna have an ego anymore.
Not
dude.
at all, dude.
Because you just can't escape yourself in that moment, right? So yeah.
What was it? What was the thing like? Well, like explain the experience.
Oh yeah. So when I was on the mushrooms, I was back home in Kentucky. It was between shoots. I'm on a pink cloud. Nothing can harm me. I'm invincible. Like I was straight up so bad in my ego. And like people would tell me and I would just smile when they would tell me that I had a huge ego. I was like, yeah, I fucking do. Like,
you're the baddest bitch in the room.
I'm the shit. Like I'm that motherfucker. I'm that guy, right? And so I'm doing mushrooms with my friend and we had steadily been increasing our dose. So the first time we did it, we did 1 gram.
Yep.
And next time we did 2 grams. And then I decided I did 4 grams, which is a little over an eighth, right? And I did 4 grams, and we're walking on my friend's farm, which is this really awesome fucking place, and which they literally bought in the 70s to do mushrooms at. Like they were these old gay dudes who had bought this place because it was the Kentucky in the 70s, and they needed a place to like safely be themselves, basically, right? To be gay openly and to like do mushrooms and do fun shit, right? So I'm there, and we're tripping, and I'm like. It actually like brought me to my knees. I literally like, I'm like walking and I just suddenly like, as I'm coming up on the mushroom, I'm like, whoa. And then I hit the ground, grab the sides of my head and I'm like, whoa. And like, I can't explain exactly what like was happening in my mind now, but it felt like a series of epiphanies was hitting me. That like I am a speck of spectral dust in this timeline that is the fucking galaxy. I am literally nothing. I am tiny, and like I will be here for less than a blink of an eye of the universe's time. And what am I doing with it? You know what I mean? And that was the first time I ever was like, oh, yeah, like being a piece of shit and like being a egotistical asshole is like not gonna actually get me where I need to be. It's gonna it got me to a certain point, right? But it's not gonna get me farther. It's not gonna take me further. It's not gonna make me better. And so yeah, it was just like this series of epiphanies of just like realizing how small I was. You know, that I was like basically nothing, or I was like what I made myself and what I had made myself from where I had been, right? From going from nothing, like. That like the ego was part of that. It was a realization that my ego building was a part of that beginning of my career building. And that I kind of that's why I don't necessarily regret it. I regret how I maybe treated people during that time, but I don't necessarily regret how I felt about myself on the inside, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
And so that ego was like necessary up to that point. And then I was like, why aren't I going further? Why aren't I getting farther? And it was that ego death that was like, oh, this is why. And then after the trip that was the easy part, frankly. After the trip was the hard part, to be able to go back to people and say, hey, I'm sorry. like, and to be really humble and like, you know, show a lot of humility and be like, I'm sorry for how I acted. I'm going to be different. And a lot of them were like, yeah, whatever. And rightfully so, like, did not believe me. And it took a lot of time and energy and patience to go like, and there were definitely times when I was like, fuck this, I'm going to act how I want to act, like, and would slip back into it, you know, but then just kept practicing at it until I was really able to like, hopefully change. I'm sure some people still think of me that way. And to be honest, they're probably totally valid, you know, and because their experience of me was that.
Yes.
But yeah, going back and like making those amends was like a really big piece of that, and being able to like move upwards and forwards.
That's so powerful, man. People don't, if you have never experienced a heroic dose of psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD, DMT, you don't understand truly how powerful they are. People that listen to this podcast understand that these tools for me have, through moments in my life, have changed my entire life and allowed me to become the person that I am today. You know,
Straight up,
and it's
dude.
like these, I use them as tools.
That's how you have to.
Literally as tools, right? And I'm so happy and proud that you went through that experience, right? And you did make a valid point, right? Because you were not confident in yourself. You had no ego when you were working at, you know,
The diner,
the
yeah.
diner, right? And then your ego blows up, right? But then you go through this experience, and yes, it does take time, but you are where you are today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so who knows what would have happened if you didn't have all of these experiences,
Yeah.
right? And dude, we're all fucking human beings,
Yeah.
man.
Right. Exactly.
We're all human beings. You're young, you're starting to get fame and money, and all of these things are happening. And it's like, how the fuck do I even handle all of it, right? At a
it's
young
like,
age.
Yeah. It was like, you know, not to make a bigger comparison than way bigger than myself, but it was like kind of a Justin Bieber experience.
100%,
like,
dude.
If you give, a comedian made a joke once. Somebody who's listening is going to know this, but like, what else did you think was going to happen if you gave a 19-year-old $100 million?
100%, bro.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, of course that's what happened.
Of
So like,
course.
I think it's way more rare to have that experience and not have that happen to you, I've noticed.
Yes.
Which is why now when I meet young performers, like, I really try and never tell people what to do, but rather just like, hey man, like the way you're using your energy right now, like it's like you're basically paying for stuff with borrowed money when you're like really in your ego, and you're using your ego to get yourself into rooms, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And get yourself a seat at the table, which like it did get me, right? But then once I was at the table, people could see right through it and people could see the bullshit. So it was very much, now when I talk to performers, I'm just like, man, like, if you would just redirect your energy a little bit, you know, you're going to be way better off. And I just hope that people listen, because I don't want people to have to like deal with that. And,
Yeah, of course.
And to be able to do better than I did. I want
Yeah.
them to do better than I did. So yeah. And so I'm doing scenes and it's going well. And I go through my ego death. And funny enough, it wasn't until I think I won one award before I had that ego death experience. And of course, like,
That's huge. Right?
yeah, right. That
Yeah.
was huge, you know. But then after I had the ego death experience and I started getting like way more like holistic with my work and like, okay, like how am I started really thinking about the work. I started watching my old scenes. I started watching scenes when they would come out and being like, what worked, what didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which scenes are the most popular, noting things about those scenes and then trying to implement it in my future performances. And then I started winning awards like crazy.
Isn't that crazy, man?
Yeah.
Right?
It was self-reflection. It was like being able to look at myself, because before I would look at scenes and I would be like, yeah, that's amazing. That's the best shit anybody's ever, you know what I mean? Like it was,
Yes.
my shit didn't stink, you know? But being able to look at it with like a real humility and being able to look at it and the scenes that I was doing and say, oh, I didn't do that well in this scene. Like people are hyping it up, you know, because they're watching it when their dick's hard. Like, of course they think it's, you got rose-colored glasses on when you're jerking off,
100%, dude. 100%. Was it hard for you to look back at your old work? Like, because like for me, right? You know, obviously it's not adult entertainment, but like even like listening to like my own podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like going back, like it's it's hard for me. But what you just said, right? It kind of a light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, shit, maybe I should be listening to more of some of them and find out like, okay, this is what I did really well. And this is what I did not do well. Let's change that and make this better.
And going down that middle path instead of like where the pendulum's in the middle versus like one side of the pendulum, which is like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. And the other side of the pendulum, which is like, this is the best thing I've ever done, is like, neither of those are very productive.
No.
Right. And going down the middle to go like, okay, I did well here. This didn't go as well. I could have done better. You know, like being able to look at it really honestly is, and I think it does. I think it applies to everything. I think, you know, when I've watched like interviews with actors, that's what they say they're able to do. And they also went through an ego death, and then they could watch their stuff back, you know, musicians, podcasters, all of that. Anything who's doing anything creative, you know, whether you're a writer or a painter or whatever, being able to look really honestly at your work. And I definitely do think psychedelics help this. Like as I did more of them and was able to like step outside of myself more, that really helped, you know?
Yeah. You know, one thing recently that I'm trying to work on is I follow Ryan Holiday, the Daily Stoic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one thing that I really admire about my brother is his calm nature, right? Like this past December, early January, I went out to Savannah.
The marathon or something? Did I see that on?
That was this past weekend, right? Him and I
it.
fucking ran the LA Marathon.
Dude, awesome.
Which was an incredible
Sorry
experience.
to interrupt,
No. It's all good. It's all good. But my brother is very like calm with his kids, right? And I have the type of personality that I'm like, you know, like it just like
great for podcasting.
It's great, right? But like stoicism for me is like, I want to be able to take that in my own life, in my work, in my craft, and try to really self-reflect on these things and not overreact. Yeah. And I'm learning, dude. Like I fucked up this past weekend and I overreacted on my cousin. Shout out to Zach. He just ran the freaking Bakersfield Marathon. He just called Tyler and I earlier.
Nice.
And I just can't. I'm so fucking proud of him. But like,
Congrats.
yes. But on like a day ago, like there was an issue and I overreacted, right? But I called him, right? We talked about it. I apologized, right? And I was like, fuck, why did I do that, right? And it's just like, you have to sometimes be able to step back, reevaluate a situation, and then move forward, right? Because a lot of times if we just act before thinking, we will regret it.
No, exactly. And I think like that even speaks to again, this like sort of pendulum analogy of like, you can apply that to your behaviors as well, like not just your work, you know, but like if you're really like, I think the opposite of like ego is like depression in a way, you know, like if you're super depressed, like you can't be productive. And like the whole idea of like, just pick yourself up and like, like you can't, right? And like the same as like when you're on that mountain of ego, like people are like, dude, just like calm down. Like you can't, right? Like you're in these two different places. So being able to find the middle ground where your pendulum's still going to swing over there and you're still going to have that overreaction, but being able to like catch it when it's in that middle part and on the way to humility, like and not getting to the extreme of humility where like you feel so bad about what, you know, your blow up on your cousin or whatever that, you know, you feel so bad you can't even talk to him.
Yes.
Right. But to get to that middle ground where like you're just leaning into humility where you can go, hey man, I'm sorry. Like I shouldn't have did that. And being able to like self-correct, you know, I think is crucial to success, frankly, like, and not just like monetary success, but I mean like your life success and your development as a person and trying to like get somewhere. And I do really credit like that attempt at self-development and that attempt at self-reflection. Because again, it's like, people, I used to also, even when I got out of my ego, I was still chasing like, I'm going to be the perfect person, you know, and like, or I'm going to be the perfect stoic, you know, like I'm going to have total control of my emotions. Right. And it's like, the fact of the matter is it's like, you know, it's a practice.
Yes, it is.
Right. It's not, there's no real end to the race, you know, it's a steady jog. So yeah, I think more people could definitely benefit from that kind of
100%. All right. So we'll bring it back to your story, right? So you go through this experience, you have your first scene, you get your 5 years, you have that heroic, you know, that heroic dose, and you go through all of that. Had you only been doing, you know, guy on guy stuff? Or?
Yeah. So again, like this was, let's see, by this time, I'd say it's like 2016, 2017. I'm like 3-4 years into it. Feels like I've been doing it forever by that point. You know, most people do 2 years and they're out, you know.
Yes.
And OnlyFans didn't exist. You know, like there were clip sites, but they were mostly only for girls. You know what I mean? Like people didn't buy clips from dudes. Like, you know, they were just like, you're just the dick. Like,
You're
know,
just the dick.
right?
I love that.
And what I knew was that guys in the straight industry didn't make money. Like they made more money than us because they filmed 5 times a week.
Fuck that.
Right? And so I made almost as much money as them filming twice a month. So it was just like I did the math. Like honestly, like looking back now and like where the money that I wanted at the time, like I probably should have just like started doing straight scenes. Also, there was like a lot of biphobia then. Like it wasn't like right now in the moment we're living in now, there's like a lot of like bisexual male celebration. Like there's a celebration of bi men that's happening right now, which I'm like, finally, you know, because for years, like there were girls that like, and there still are girls out there who will not film with a guy who films with other guys. You know, there are still people who like,
why?
Like mostly some really irrational like fears around HIV and diseases that like, I'm like, bitch, we're getting tested at the same place.
100%.
So if you don't trust my test, you don't trust your own.
That's exactly it.
Right?
It's deeper
like,
than that.
We're literally getting tested at the same place. It's going to the same laboratory.
Yeah.
So what's up with that? Like, it's really, and they're like, I have lots of, it's very like, the person that says racist shit, but then is like, oh, but you know, my best friend is black.
I fucking hate that. Shut the hell up.
Right. And like girls were doing that where they were like, no, it's not an anti-gay thing. My best friend is gay. And I'm just like, yeah, but you're actually like, are being like homophobic or biphobic by saying like, you know,
these
like,
things.
Yeah, by saying these things. So yeah, for a long time it was like that. It was harder to get into the end. Like that information had not really been dispelled the same way.
Yeah.
OnlyFans didn't exist, and straight porn dudes didn't get paid like we did. You know, where I could work twice a month and chill. You know. So that was why I didn't for a long, long time. And then I actually had a problem where I was like afraid of my audience.
Like
because,
not accepting?
Because I had built like all of my career, you know, on up to that point for the first 4 or 5 years on just doing gay stuff. So like, even though I was always like saying I'm bi, like I think people just didn't believe me. I think people were like, oh, he just doesn't want to fully come out yet. That like thing. And so, I just didn't for a long time because when I would try and float the idea out there, the response was very negative. And I didn't realize at the time that you kind of need to just do it.
Fuck
and
yeah, man.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't like it can fuck right off.
Absolutely.
Like, you're not a true fan. Like, you're not a true supporter. So, but yeah, it wasn't really until the OnlyFans thing came. And I still have never done a pro boy-girl scene, actually. I actually would like to.
Really?
I'd like to do one for like a big movie and like try and kind of like a word chase a little bit. I kind of want to come back. I haven't done a pro scene at all since 2020.
So wait, you do all your stuff on OnlyFans?
Yeah. The last scene I filmed was like 2020, and it was such a nightmare because it was like during that like lull in the first year of the pandemic in 2020 where we all kind of were like, okay, it's fine. And then like another huge outbreak happened.
Yeah.
But like the studio was like, and rightfully so, but it was not fun to film because of COVID.
Yeah,
you know what I
too
mean?
much shit. Yeah,
too much shit. And so like I was just like, fuck this. I'm gonna stay at home and film with my boyfriend. And we're gonna make porn and like release it, and I don't have to worry about getting COVID or traveling or anything like that. So yeah, I haven't done a pro scene, I think, since 2020. I think it's been.
And so things did, like at this point, like was your social media already popping?
Yeah, social media had popped. I was one of the few people that had a really popular Instagram. Still kind of like a lot of adult people don't do well on Instagram. I've never been banned from Instagram. I've never had a suspension from Instagram.
Why?
I don't fucking push the envelope.
Yeah.
Instagram doesn't want you to post nudes.
Yeah, they
Stop
don't.
trying to get away with posting your ass.
Yes.
Like, post it everywhere else that it's allowed. Like, I literally don't get, the girls are like, they get 1 million followers and then they're posting like with see-through panties on and they're like, I can't believe I got banned. I'm like, I can. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, it's not surprising to me. So
you can post 1 million other things, like you know the rules, regardless if we like them or not. They are the rules,
right? And so also like people want to post that stuff there because they know, of course, when you do get away with it, that's what gets 100,000 likes. You know what I mean? That's what gets the crazy likes. But also, it's like I don't know what the term for this is, but yes, you're going to get the 100,000 likes, but that also means it's way more likely that Instagram's going to see it
Isn't
and
that
take
crazy?
it down.
Yeah. And
So-
there's tons of other things that you could post that are just as risque without getting banned.
Dude.
100%.
Like post in your bikini.
Yeah.
And just make Instagram that place for that. Let it be a little less popular than your Twitter.
Yes.
Of course, your Twitter's going to pop off more because you can post nudes there. Like
Everything.
Like duh.
Yeah.
To me, it was always just like, yeah, that's not what Instagram is for.
Yeah.
You know. So. My social media was popping by this point. Like 2016, 17, that's when I'm living in Washington State. I'm living in Tacoma. I'm hanging out with like some college kids up there and stuff that are going to this like liberal arts school, and like it's cool. And that was the first time I kind of thought about going back to school. And then I was just like, nah, I didn't want to do that yet. Then I was like getting kind of depressed in Seattle or in Tacoma just because it really does like rain there all the fucking time.
Yes.
Like, and it really did. Like after like year 2, getting into year 3, it really started to get to me that like, because I would leave Tacoma and I would go down to San Diego. And then you're going from 2 very opposite places.
The polar opposite.
Like literally San Diego, the sunniest,
Yeah.
besides like their June gloom or whatever. And it was just like, I only feel good when I'm down in San Diego. This is a problem. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like such a pendulum swing. It was such a pendulum swing. So I moved back to Kentucky. And
Wait, so you didn't move to San Diego?
No,
you left
no. I had been living in San Diego and then left there to move to Tacoma.
Why did you do that?
Tacoma was cheaper. I really wanted to be around the woods.
Yes.
I really wanted to like go hiking more, and like, like LA and like San Diego hiking is not
It's
hiking.
so-
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
walk on a
Yes.
dirt path, right?
100%.
And that's fine because it's very nice and it gets people out and they're doing exercise and yada yada. But yeah, I'd always wanted to live in Washington State. Like this was like, I grew up with early Instagram when Instagram just came out. So it was like all Instagram pictures were like foggy forest scenes.
Yeah.
Like, and Tumblr was still popping. That was one of the first places I popped off too, is Tumblr actually.
Really?
Yeah, I used to be huge on Tumblr until they did the adult ban. But
So stupid.
yeah, so stupid, by the way,
Yeah.
which is why everybody's like scared about Twitter banning porn. And
I don't think it's happening.
Twitter knows that they can't.
Well, no, and Elon Musk's running it, dude.
Well,
That's
but even before then, because like people would float the idea, people within Twitter would float the idea, like, why are we still allowing this? And I'm like, because when Tumblr died and went from a $5 billion valuation to a $1 million valuation, one of the biggest collapse ever. And only reason it's not the biggest is because they still did survive, right? So they banned porn, and all those people went to Twitter.
of course.
So Twitter gained all of those users, and even though Twitter kind of wanted to, and at least up until Elon Musk like wanted to get rid of this porn, they knew that like just based on the fact that they are supposed to make money for the shareholders, the ad revenue boost that they got from all of us leaving Tumblr and going to Twitter, that's like, yeah, you can't turn it off once it's
No,
on.
you got the G out of the ball. Can you double check this? Doesn't Twitter own Tumblr?
Do they now? I thought it was WordPress bought them for $1 million.
I don't know. I felt like wasn't Elon Musk gonna like re-release it or something like that?
Oh, if they do, I'm back on Tumblr, dude.
It's currently owned by American company Automatic.
Okay, so I'm wrong. What website am I talking about?
He does have Twitter.
He does have Twitter, but I thought he could. Whatever, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, they fucked that up, dude.
They fucked that up so bad.
Yeah, definitely. So you make that move, right? Then you move to Kentucky. Why back home?
Yeah, I moved back home. Like I tend to move back home between every big move to another place, just because I'm like, all right, let me reset. Let me get back to myself and how I feel, and like check and sort of check in with myself. And that's like my place to do that, especially back then. So like, yeah, even after San Diego, I didn't directly move to Tacoma. Actually, I moved back to Kentucky for like,
Shit, okay.
2-3 months, maybe the summer or something, and then moved to Tacoma. So yeah, I did that, and then moved back to Kentucky, started dating my high school sweetheart again. And by then she had like 2 kids, with like, another dude or whatever. And I always thought like, because my father was such a shitty father that I was like, oh, I'm going to be a shitty father, so I'm just never going to have kids. Like I was like fully like not anti-kid, but anti-me having kids, And I was like, yeah, I just can't do it because I'm going to do a terrible job because he did. But then I started being around these kids and like helping take care of them. And I was like, oh, I'm actually like really fucking good at this. Like I'm kind of like a really good dad. Like
yes,
that's cool.
yes,
you know?
yes.
So yeah, I was doing that. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my.
No, it's all good. Isn't that kind of crazy though, right? Like, I don't know. When you grow up with a shitty parent, right? In your head, you're like,
Well, because
I
you
don't wanna
came
be
from
that.
them, you're gonna be that.
Yeah, and
you know?
you a lot of people are, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, the cycle doesn't break.
But the ones that break the fucking cycle, man, they're the best because they know what they don't want.
The stakes feel so high.
Of course.
The stakes felt so high to me. I was like, I can't mess up, you know? And at first it took me a while. I felt like I couldn't even get mad at them. I was like, no, I'm not going to be able to like effectively, you know, like discipline them or anything like
100%.
that. You know, plus they weren't really my kids. So that came into it too, where it's like, well, they're not really my kids to discipline.
And was this the first time you've dated oh no, you said she was your high school sweetheart.
Yeah, this is my high school sweetheart. So, so we were really together. We were living in a house. I was like basically playing house, you know, and playing this domestic life and being like, oh, I could really do this. The hard part was by that point I was like deep into the adult industry and like her family who already didn't like me in high school because I was a pothead druggie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Now I wasn't a pothead druggie. And like I had money and I could like support a family, but they didn't like where the money was coming from, you know.
But she didn't care. She did. And so how were you filming when you were there?
Let's fly it out.
Okay.
This is before OnlyFans too.
Okay.
I didn't start my OnlyFans had come out then, but I wasn't doing it. I was like one of the early performers, unfortunately, who was like kind of got in my own way and was like, I'm a real porn star. I'm not gonna do it. Dumbest thing I've ever done. Should have started it 2 years earlier. But so yeah, then we were together and she got pregnant and this is where it's gonna take a deep dive, but yeah, she ended up having a miscarriage and yeah, it was like the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, toughest loss, like most. Even with all the other stuff, the car wreck, everything else, like there's even more stuff in that like time period that happened too. But like all the other like life-changing moments that I felt like I'd had up to that point felt like nothing compared to like the pain of that loss. And I'd never experienced something like that before, you know? That just like radically changed who I was. And our relationship just did not survive that experience, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I just decided I was like, you know, she had moved out, the kids had moved out. I'm in this house that I had gotten for us. And now I'm in this basically like, I'm this lonely man in this big empty house. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? And like, that's when I really started thinking about it and being like, you know what? Life is short. Like life can sometimes be so short it doesn't even get started. You know what I mean? Like somebody can not even make it to birth. So if that's the case, like I can't waste any more time. Like I have to like really be. I just suddenly felt like a real impetus to be like working as hard as possible and to like do as much as possible and to like experience and like accomplish and so that's when I decided to start an OnlyFans. And then, of course, that went well.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's when I moved to LA so I could be around more performers and do more work. And that's when I started really winning awards. And like that's when I won Performer of the Year, which was like my like highest moment. It felt like, so it was a horrible experience, but it also was like it was really life changing.
Yeah.
And it did put me into a different mindset and a different perspective.
What do you think it is about your personality that, first off, I'm very sorry that you went through that experience. It's really fucked up. But
Thank you.
Your life, you take these dark experiences where most people will just fucking crumble and make even more dark experiences, but you absolutely pivot something, a light goes off in your fucking head, and you're like, I'm not going left, I'm going right, and I'm gonna go fucking hard.
Yeah.
What is that?
I think like, you know, if you knew the whole experience of high school, like a lot of that was that it was dark experiences that I didn't handle well, it just kept getting worse, you know, and shit just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it wasn't until like my life was in danger with that car wreck that I was suddenly like, that was like my first wake up. That was like, oh, whoa, like this shit matters. Like what you choose to do, who you choose to do it with. So it didn't used to happen for me. It wasn't like I was always this way. It wasn't until I got off of drugs and stopped doing pills and stopped drinking. And it wasn't until then that I was able to realize that pivoting was possible.
Yeah.
So I definitely credit rehab for that, to be honest. Like that 2 months in Nashville, I can't remember. I think it was Nashville. That 2 months in Nashville, it was a really awesome place. Cumberland Heights, that place saved my life. And that we realized that like I could still pivot and I could do something. And so when these other, for one, like that was that up to the point of the miscarriage, like everything else shitty that happened in that time was like, oh, I've been through worse. Oh, I've been through worse. Oh, so it was, you know, like I almost died before this. I didn't almost die here. So of course I can pivot. If I can pivot from that, I can pivot from this. So, I definitely say credit it even helped me with that perspective. Even helped me with the miscarriage, was to be like, oh, you know, this is really horrible, and it definitely took like a long time, and I'm definitely still dealing with it, and for a long time, like really suppressed it and like refused to deal with it, actually, because I felt like if I processed my pain and that loss, and not to say like got over it, but like I guess that's what I felt like would happen if I felt like if I got over it, quote unquote, that my feelings about it would change, that I would somehow care less, and that I would somehow it would disconnect me from the experience, and I didn't want to lose the like little piece of connection that I felt like I had to that.
Yeah.
So I refused to process it because I was like holding it really close to me. You know, I was like, no, I'm not going to process this because then it's going to go away or something like that. So it took a long time to be able to gain that perspective that pivoting was possible. Yeah. And it still takes me time to deal with like the heaviest things. I've realized like, and since that miscarriage, I've actually like over the past 4 years had like 3 friends die, like pretty much in succession, 1 a year, and all in pretty awful ways, 2 by overdose and 1 by suicide. And I still definitely, I'll just be totally honest here, like have not really processed those either, for the same reason of just like, I feel like that represents like letting go of that or something. And I don't want to let go of that. I don't want to let go of the feelings that I had for those people. And I just have a really hard time dealing with that loss. And like my greatest fear is like a phone call that one of my parents, even my shitty father, is gone. That's gonna just like totally shatter me. Honestly, I'm probably, especially my parents, like I'm definitely like, or anybody in my family, especially my brother, my sister, like even thinking about it now, just like it makes me itch, dude. It really makes me itch because it's just like, I know I'm not going to handle it well. I know I'm probably going to shut down. And it's another reason why I like left Kentucky after that miscarriage. I was like, I'm very much like, I did get this trait from my father, which is like the runaway trait, which is like, oh, things aren't going well here. Well, then I'm just going to leave. Like, you know, like, and
is it leaving or growing?
You know, it became growing, but at the time, no, it was just like, I'm going to sell as many possessions as I can, and then I'm going to pack my fucking car and I'm going to drive away from here. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I'm literally going to like run away from this problem. So, but yeah, it's the thing I handle the worst is loss. And like, I feel like I handle everything else. Everybody tells me, how do you handle things so well? How do you take things in stride? Like shit'll go horribly wrong when I'm traveling, and I'm just like, okay, you know, it just is what it is, right? Like for the most part, like everything just is what it is, and we just have to deal with it. And you can either deal with it in a positive way, or you can deal with it in a shitty way.
Yes.
And I have just chosen, because I've been through so many shitty things, to deal with things in a really positive way. And as a result, I think things go really well for me. But yeah, like I that's the only thing I don't deal with well, is that pain of loss. I just can't.
But that's human nature, bro. Yeah, that's human nature. And I think that you talking about it and you being open about it, right?
So this podcast, the first time anybody, it probably even knows that happened to me, by the way. So I never talked publicly about the pregnancy or the miscarriage before.
Well, I think that by you being open and talking about it and facing it, right, it allows you to work through it and process it. And it's not about getting over it. It is that time does heal all wounds. I lost my dad at 17. He was my fucking rock. I never thought that pain would ever go away, right? And it does. And it took me, it took me a long time to work through it. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that I actually worked through it with a therapist that got me through it, that allowed me to face my fears, that allowed me to talk about him without breaking down and crying my fucking eyes out. And it is about facing it. And it is about, yes, you do have to work through it, but it is the way, I think the way that people work through it is by talking about it and being open.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, for you, there was something that you said, and I think we did gloss over it, is the pain that you went through in high school, right? What, besides the crash, what had happened through high school?
Oh, well, there was actually a whole another car wreck 2 months later with the same friend driving.
Holy shit, dude. That's a friend that you should not drive with.
Oh, no, that second wreck was the time, and that story I still cannot tell, but we 360'd again, but this time I was fully awake. So I was like there for like, oh, this guy drives reckless and is like, does not care about his life and clearly didn't give a fuck about mine, and stopped hanging out with him, and he ended up going to prison. But
fucking hell, man.
Yeah, dude, it was bad. So, it was like another car wreck 2 months after the one where I almost died again. And that's when I was just like, what is like, it was like, you know, I clearly didn't learn enough from the first one, you know? And so it was that, it was the expulsions. It was like, you know, the heartbreak of like my high school sweetheart, like saying she didn't want to be with me anymore because of who I was, and like the pain of that, and being like, oh, I'm a fucking piece of shit, clearly, like, you know. So it was just like an amalgamation of those negative experiences. It wasn't, I would say, any one negative experience. It was the amalgamation of those negative experiences, and just like, you know, didn't have a good relationship with my family, and just like, I think having to be on my own from that early age, even going to boarding school at that early age, and having to like deal with my mother's disease on my own, you know, and like, like the fucking counselor at school's trying to like talk to me or whatever, and I'm just like, I'm literally like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, my mom is dying. Like, I don't want to hear what the fuck you have to say about, like, you know, tough things happen. I'm like, I'm literally about to come across this fucking couch and beat the shit out of you. You know what I mean? Like, it just made me angry when people would try and talk to me about it. And I was like, you don't fucking get it. Like, you know what I mean? And like, I was like very willing with that counselor at that school to be like, is your mom dying of cancer? And he was like, well, no. And I was like, so tell me again how you know what it's like.
You don't.
Right. And he was just like, and then like, they didn't make me go see him anymore after. I was like, you know, like, actually I went and talked to the headmaster after that. He invited me over. There was a headmaster's house on campus. He invited me over to his house for dinner.
Oh shit.
Which usually only happened for like the very exceptional students, which I did well, but I wasn't exceptional at the time because my studies were struggling because I was like distracted. And he brought me over to his house and had dinner with him and his family and a couple other students, and you know, just really like talked to me like an adult, even though I was like a 15-year-old boy, and just asked me questions like an adult and didn't treat me like a kid. And I was just like, I'm sorry, Mr. His name, like that counselor is just not able to help me. Like, there's like, and I was able to express, I think because of the way he asked me, whatever question he asked me, I was able to express that like, low key, nothing's going to help me get through this. It's just something I have to go through. Yeah. And so I really also credit like, in a weird way, you know, that, my mom's cancer was like the first thing that was like, there is an outside something that's happening that I can't do anything about, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm a child, right? I can do nothing about. And so it was an acceptance of that powerlessness. You know, the plane gets delayed, the flight gets canceled. Well, I'm powerless to do anything about it. Only thing I can choose is my reaction. Yes. So that I really credit. That's how is to be able to realize that like most things, like 99.99% of them are bigger than me and out of my control. Yes. And all I can control is my reaction to them. So I can have a shitty reaction and yell at the fucking gate agent at the airport because the flight got delayed, but she didn't control the flight getting delayed, right? And even if I could find the person that caused the delay of the flight, like, what's me going off on them gonna help?
Not a damn thing.
Not a damn thing, dude. Not a
damn thing. And this is what people need to realize in life. And these are things that I'm starting to personally realize, right? And The only thing that you can control is your reaction.
That's it.
And if you have a
Period.
shitty reaction, you're going to get a shitty result,
Yep.
right? And that's just not the way life is.
Yep.
You know, flashing forward, right, for you, where are things today with you and your family and everything going on?
Oh yeah, my brother is my best friend. Like we have a business together. Like we're gonna start another business together.
Really?
Yeah. Like
What is it?
I talk to my mom every day. I talk to my other brother and sister every day. There's only one sibling we're currently not talking to because she's going through some struggles and like it's just not helpful. So, yeah, we started an entertainment company where we buy and sell tickets to events. I have like a couple seat licenses at some different stadiums, so I get like pre-sale prices, and then
Fuck out of
yeah,
here.
and we try and avoid like the price gouging or whatever.
Yes.
You know, like people will be selling the tickets for like $2,000 a pop, and I'm like, well, let's do them for $1,000. You know what I mean? That's just gonna make it more attainable for somebody, and like $1,000 for a ticket is still crazy, but we're still like slashing the market value.
100%.
So we do that, and then we're gonna start a trucking business as well because my brother's a trucker, and those trucking companies like rob those drivers. It's really bad. Like you should look into it. It's really bad. Like, and that's how we
Really?
get all of our goods. That's how we get everything that's in this room right now is off of a semi truck, you know, and those drivers who are the reason for it really get really like mistreated. So yeah, we want to start a trucking business so that he can be home more and spend more time with his kids and
Dude,
stuff.
that's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fantastic. And I love that you have such a solid relationship with your family now. You know, I think that there are a decent amount of people in your industry that don't have a good relationship with their family. That's why I love talking to Maddie and hearing her relationship, right?
It's rare and it's lucky. I feel
yeah.
very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just in general, having a good relationship, regardless of the industry you're in, right?
Yeah.
Just having
There's people who are bankers who are
that
very
have
successful that have
fucking
shit relationships.
I know quite a few people that
Yeah.
have terrible relationships, right? You know, as we start to wind this down, like when you leave this earth, right? When it is lights out, game over, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, you know, that is incredible that you asked me that because the morning after the miscarriage happened, and it literally, like, I swear to God, I woke up that day and the birds were not singing. I mean, it was literally like the world was dead. Like, it was like everything was very still. It was an especially quiet morning. I was by myself. And all we had from that experience was bills and one sonogram. And I still have that sonogram to this day. And it's probably my most precious possession, if I'm totally honest. And so later I eventually had to digitize because I was like so worried something would happen to it. I keep it in my fire safe, but I still go look at it. And all I had was that sonogram. And I was looking at that sonogram, and there was like a little notepad right there. And I just thought about how I realized I could be better than who my father was. I could be a better father one day when that time is right and when that time happens. And that very question came to me, and I wrote on that piece of paper, and I still have that on my fridge. I'll send it to you when I get home. I still have that little piece of paper. I wrote it in all caps. I said, "What kind of man do you want to be remembered as?" And that is the question that drives basically every decision that I do and make was that question. Because that's what I realized, like when you do leave this earth, that's all you leave behind is a legacy. Yeah. Everything else goes, and you can't take anything else with you. And the only thing you kind of can hold on to is that legacy about yourself, and that's what people will remember. So yeah, everything I do is predicated on that question, which is so amazing that you just asked me that. So yeah, it really came down to, you know, I have all these nieces and nephews. My oldest nephew just turned 18, which is like crazy to think about. I'm like, yo, like this, you know, he's like a young man now, like, you know, and I remember when you were born, like I you know, it's like, I'm getting old enough to have those experiences too. And realizing that like this next generation of my family, like that's what I'm going to leave behind too, is like eventually with my children, but with my nieces and nephews at least, you know, and one of my nieces, we have the same birthday. So I feel like very connected to her. And yeah, so everything that I do and everything that I'm doing with starting companies, making money, investing money, trying to like build generational wealth is for them, is for the next generation of my family. And it's something that I'm also inspired by like my grandfather and his story to do, coming from like literally dirt, like dust, you know, to where he ended up in life. It is just like very inspirational to me. And everything's predicated on that. So like every, in every like operating agreement that I write for a business, or like that, me and my brother wrote for our business, is in there that like it's built on values, and it's built on the values of our family and wanting our family to do well for generations beyond us, because that's all you can really leave behind. My grandfather's gone. He's not here anymore. All he left behind is the legacy of the importance of education, you know what I mean? And the importance of staying connected to your family. So, that's what I would like to leave behind is something for my family that they can build on, that they can build into another generation. And what I really want to leave them with is that wisdom of that importance of that like all this other crap that's here, you know what I mean, is really meaningless next to like this thing that we call family, which is really these connection points between human beings, you know what I mean, that we sort of intrinsically have, and that's all you have. So yeah, that's what I want to leave is that legacy, not just of like monetary success, but that legacy of wisdom, and for that to be impressed upon them, for them to realize that that's what's most important, and that everything that they do, and even like the monetary success that they chase, which, I like, we live in that kind of world, like they're going to have to, right? That it should be done selflessly for everybody else, for everybody that's going to come after you, and the people that are going to come after them. You know what I mean? Like my grandfather never met any of my nieces and nephews, right? He met us as grandchildren, but not as great grandchildren, but he still, in a way, he did that for them.
Yes, he did.
Right. And so like I'm doing it for people I'll never meet. And there was a saying, and I'm going to get this wrong, but, the wisest men plant trees under which the shade they shall never sit.
Lane, you are one amazing human being.
Dude, you are, man. Thank you.
Your story is very, very inspiring. Your ability to self-reflect, grow, pivot, and to just have a good and open heart and be honest and real. Like that's like these traits are few and far between these days. And whatever you continue to decide to do in your life, I know it's gonna be fucking big.
Thanks, man.
Just like that,
so.
your boss said when you were working at the diner. I totally feel it, man.
I'm glad you remember that.
I totally feel it. Of course, yeah. Absolutely. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart coming on the show, man.
Dude, thank you. Can I ask you one question before we wrap?
Of course.
Okay. We've been talking a lot about wisdom, I think, and learning from your experiences. And, you were talking about even yourself recently, like opening yourself up, and like, that moment you had with your cousin. So the question just kind of raised for me, like, do you think that this podcast, like, do you think you started this podcast even unintentionally, like subconsciously towards that goal? And do you think that this podcast is helping you achieve that?
It's a fantastic question. I started this podcast because I used to be behind the chair, and I would get into these really in-depth conversations while I was cutting people's hair about their life, who they were, their story.
People get real honest in that chair.
100%. And so I would take a 30-minute haircut and turn it into 3 hours, and I built a studio at my home. And listening to Joe Rogan's show really, for me, it changed my life. I wasn't a healthy person. I didn't take good care of myself. I didn't eat right. At the time, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Flash forward, I have multiple sclerosis. That's what it is. And so I was always feeling like fucking dog shit, right? And I wanted to become more honest and real about my own individual story, right? And so people kept on telling me to start a podcast. And 3 years ago, my wife, for my birthday, bought me this podcast setup. Not this one that we're in today, but, it was, a few microphones, a mixer, all of that shit. And I just started doing it. And slowly but surely, I realized that I was evolving as a human being through the stories that were being told to me, because I was taking a piece here, take a piece there, take a piece here, piece there. And it's allowed me to become the person I am today. And the first generation of this podcast, I actually had to stop. We were 60 episodes in, but my producer and I went different ways.
And doing something like this, you can't do it all on your own, right? There's all the
not.
3-camera setup, all this shit.
Yeah.
And my amazing wife, who I've been with for it'll be 18 years this year.
Congratulations.
Her younger brother, my right hand fucking man, Tyler Robitaille, you know, and I started talking, and he became the producer. And this is like, back to your story, is half me, half him, right? That's how it is. And I've realized, like the question that you asked, I've realized along the way, it's brought these pieces of me out into the front, right? And I 100% have become a better person because of this show. And whatever happens with this show, whatever fucking happens, if it blasts off to the stratosphere or fucking, you know, withers away, that to me, it doesn't matter. I don't do it for the money, the dollars, the fame, none of that shit. I do it because I'm intrigued by different people's paths and stories and who they are and where they got to where they are today. And it allows me kind of through this entire process to figure out more shit about who I am, and allows me to get to where I want to be in life. And that is just to be a good fucking person.
Yep, that's it. That's all you can. Yeah, it immortalizes it too. In that like, even when you're gone, right? Like, comet could hit us right now. We're all fucking dead, right?
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? It could happen at any time, right? The smallest comet could just happen to come hit us right now. We're done, right? But all of that is immortalized.
100%.
And like, thankful to the internet for that. You know, like, all of that is immortalized, and that like the people that come after you are going to be able to learn from that wisdom.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
So that's all we can do, man. I think you're on the right track, man. And like, getting to talk to you has been really like quite an amazing experience. You both are two awesome ass dudes, man. Thank you so much for having me. So
thank you, Lane, man.
Yeah, appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate
Seriously.
you, man. Yeah.
Where can people find your stuff?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter, Lane V Rogers, Instagram, Lane V Rogers. I also have my OnlyFans. Can I plug that?
100%, dude.
OnlyFans.com/Mr. Blake Mitchell. It's still under my porn name.
Nice.
That's pretty much where you guys can find me, those 3 places. So I'm on there. I'm posting. I like the most like real I get nowadays is probably on Instagram stories, because I kind of like the like temporary nature of them, you know?
100%.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the places you can find me. And appreciate anybody that like follows me or checks me out. And definitely, if you guys listen to this podcast and like hear this point right here, I want you guys to tweet at me and to send me messages and tell me what you thought of it. And because that's how I'm going to be able to learn and grow more.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Have a good night. Smooches. Boom.
Dude, fucking amazing, dude.
Thank you so much, dude. Fucking good, dude.